Shri Shankaracharya Ji Jagadguru Pranam. Your Excellency, it's a great joy that you have managed to join us in your very busy schedule. It's a great honor for this Science and Technology Conference to have the Science and Technology Minister of the great nation of Veda Bhumi Bharat. We are talking science and technology, and the joy that we are celebrating in these few days is how Veda is total science and total technology. Science tries to investigate the laws of nature and understand where we come from, where we are going, what is our essence, what is the material world. And Veda has already described all of that. Veda is a subjective knowledge that has been acquired by going into the self. Modern science is an objective knowledge that analyzes the phenomena of nature and tries to come with explanations about how nature works. Science has very great qualities, which are that it is repeatable, it is reliable, it is as expected, it is objective. It has many problems also, which is it is very limited in its ability to come with new knowledge because the science has to isolate variables and deal with them independently and to get the results, and that's why science is very slow. On the other hand, science itself gets its knowledge from the minds of great scientists who imagine how the universe works and must work, and then try to demonstrate that or understand how it could actually be true through scientific experimentation. What we have is a phenomenon of total knowledge available in the Veda. And what we have is science that is able to analyze if this is actually true or not. And this is what this conference, Your Excellency, is about. So we have developed during these few days a framework which has been under the guidance from our side of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who has explained to us in the past 50 years what Veda is. And the way Maharishi has explained it is that there is a field in life which is a field of consciousness, Chetana, pure being, pure existence. And that field is unbounded, pure, infinite. That's why it has no beginning and no end. Therefore, when we ask a question about where does this come from, where do we come from, we are asking usually these questions in the relative world, but in the reality of the absolute, there is no beginning, no end, and therefore it's all one unbounded ocean of being. This one unbounded ocean of being has a nature, it has a nature, and its nature is that it is consciousness. As being consciousness, it must reflect on itself, because the process of being conscious requires an observer, an observed, and a process of observation. Without these three, there can be no consciousness. So how do we say? We have actually pure consciousness, which is pure being, yet that consciousness becomes conscious through the process of its own nature, which is consciousness. We say consciousness, pure, is Purusha. What is its nature? It's being conscious. To be conscious, that is what Prakriti is. So Purusha and Prakriti are actually one and the same thing. It's just one is the nature of the other. That's what Prakriti means. So consciousness, when it reflects on itself, it sees three values. Rishi, Devata, Chandas, Maharishi calls them: observer, observed, and process of observation. And therefore, at this point, the duality emerges from oneness to multiplicity. But this is all a process within consciousness. And as this process reflects on itself, it ends up with infinite multiplicity, and therefore the ability to see things from different perspectives. from the perspective of the observer, the observed, the process of observation. And this is how infinite reverberation of one looking at the other leads to the infinite expressions of the universe. When we look at modern science, and I will let Raja Hagelin, Dr. Hagelin, present more of that, we find that the gross values of the reality of the individual, their body, then what are they made of, or anything in the universe, we come to the cells in the human body, and then we go to molecules in the organic systems, and from the molecules we go to the atoms. The atoms, we know elementary particles, and then fields, and then ultimately a unified field of natural law. So even modern science says that ultimately everything is just pure, unbounded, unified field of natural law. All we have to do is equate one with the other, and then we have a common understanding. The beauty about the technology that is available through the Vedic knowledge is that there is a technology, the technology of consciousness, and we have been taught by Maharshi the Transcendental Meditation technique, that allows the human mind actually to go to that field of pure being. And that is transcending. That is what is said to be on Atma. Atma Vare Drishtabra Shrotabya, which means put your attention on Atma, see Atma, hear Atma. In this case, directly experience the self, which is the unified field, and which actually contains all these reverberations of natural law. So the totality of the laws of nature are available in the unified field, and that is how a human being, in this particular case, a very advanced human being, a rishi, who is having developed their full human potential, are able within themselves to actually experience those reverberations, and this is what Veda is. Now, therefore, Veda is sound and silence also. Maharishi says this is the expression of the laws of nature that are within the unified field, which we say within consciousness, or in other words, within Atma. This is why we also as human beings can understand our universe, how we can understand the reality of things, how we can create formulas in our intellect, in our mind, that finally apply to how the world works, how the world which is outside of us functions. It's really because of our direct experience of our inner self. Maharishi took this further, and Raja Hagelin will comment on the science on the physical level, from the chemical level, etc. He took it further to say that the way Veda expresses itself is the natural sequence of how the laws of nature emerge. Now, if a human being can actually experience Atma, it means that all of these laws of nature are available within us. And they indeed are available within our human physiology even. So, Veda, when it expresses itself, or let's say the laws of nature, the reverberations within the unified field, they create patterns. And these patterns, as they emerge, are what we call natural law. And therefore, the whole universe is based on these patterns, and our human physiology is based on these patterns. We have in our body the total embodiment of the laws of nature. That's why the great religions, even in other religions and other belief systems like Christianity and even Islam and Taoism and Buddhism, they say that man was created in the image of God, that we are the embodiment of totality. Vedoham aham brahmasmi. And therefore these patterns are actually in our body. And this is one of the aspects of the research that I was so fortunate to do under Maharishi's guidance, that have shown that the structure of our body on a physical level is exactly like the patterns of Veda, from an actual construction level. How Veda is constructed in its richas, in its suktas, in its divisions and subdivisions, all are within our body. So in our body there is shiksha, there is kalpa, there is vyakaran, in very exact structure and function. And that's why we physically are the embodiment of Veda in a very physical way. The universe is also the embodiment of Veda. That's why we can say Yatha Pinde Tatha Brahmande, as is the universe, so is the individual body. Then what does this tell us? It gives us a complete knowledge of the reality that in fact Veda is everything, Veda is everyone, Veda is totality, and Veda is total knowledge, absolute, complete, total knowledge. And therefore we have the most advanced science in Veda. The most advanced total knowledge is available in the Vedic literature. Science is only a tool, and it's a very limited tool in its infancy. It's a great tool. It shows how things, whether they are right or not from an objective level. But until the day science fully discovers the totality of life and its patterns, it might take a long time. Today we have the advantage of Veda, which is total science, total knowledge of these patterns of natural law, and technology that comes from it. There are many aspects of Vedas. We talked about Sthapatya Veda, the organization of towns. We have talked about Ayurveda, the structure of how to keep body healthy. There are all kinds of Jyotish and aspects of the Veda that relate the individual to the cosmos. I would summarize all procedures and technologies of health or living or society in one simple idea, and that is to go back to the patterns of natural law. If there is a pattern of natural law that is evolving and differentiating, it has a sequence, and those sequences are logical, structured, and in a very perfect way. If you are like those sequences, you are on the evolutionary path. If you have something damaged in those sequences, you have a problem. Like a machine, for a machine to work perfectly, it has to have its structure perfectly organized. If you get a bend here, a kink here, a dirty aspect here, this is what we would call in a human being stress and strain, which means our physiology is not working well. How do we get it to work well? We bring it back in accordance with its original design. What is its original design? The Veda. Veda is the design. It's the architectural design, the blueprint out of which we are made. We bring our blueprint back to its original structure, and we have health, wholeness, prosperity, peace, intelligence, and we have enlightenment. How do we bring this back? On different levels. The most profound and powerful level is to go to the home of the laws of nature where all these patterns exist, and that is Atma. Atma is where all Veda is. Veda exists in the Parame Vyoman. Richo Akshare Parame Vyoman. Yasmin Deva Adi Vishve Nishedur. All the Devatas, all the powers, all the administrators of the universe, all the Aksharas, all the Richas, they exist in the Parame Vyoman. Go back to that, and your body, your mind arranges itself, adjusts itself, and that's what our scientists has been discussing, how by practicing transcendental meditation you get your body better, your mind better, your behavior better, your social reality better, the conflicts in society improve. So that is the most profound level of going back to the self, going back to Veda. And that is available for every human being. It doesn't matter what they believe in, what they think about, what they are, what religion. This is science. This is total natural law. Just go back to yourself. And going back to the self is going back to the patterns that have constructed you. So there is a technology. There is the system from the Veda that takes us to that level. Now we can see all kinds of other levels in which we can help to bring back this pattern. One other level would be to chant the Veda, because by chanting the Veda, we are actually re-enlivening that pattern, because this is the pattern. So one is go to the home of all the patterns. One is actually use the patterns themselves and listen to them, and that creates an entrainment that gets your mind, your body, your feelings, and your actual physical structure to go back to its original structure. So by listening to the Vedic sounds, we readjust the body. And also research has been done on this that shows that specific Vedic sounds, they can cure the body, they can remove the disruption and put the body back in its proper functioning. You can go to the chemical level. Chemical level, you can use herbs, plants. This is Ayurveda. How does Ayurveda work? One might say this molecule goes here, this goes there. But from Maharshi's perspective, from Vedic perspective, all that the chemicals do is bring you back to the pattern. If somewhere on the chemical level, on the physical level, something went wrong, you can use some food, some herbs, and that realigns your pattern with Veda. So even the chemicals are Veda, because they are part of natural law, and when there is imbalance, you take that into yourself, and the whole thing gets arranged. You can have Jyotish, organization with natural law and the cosmos. We can have city planning, as was presented, which is that the whole structure of society, the whole way we build our homes, is in accordance with the patterns of natural law. That will enhance and strengthen this relationship between natural law, in other words, Veda, and the environment. So Vedic technology is a simple application of the Vedic framework, which is the total knowledge of natural law that allows us to go back to ourselves directly through the sounds. That's why the Pandits, they can do it. And we have seen that even when a group of Pandits or a group of people practice these advanced techniques together, that there are changes that happen in society, reduction in conflict, increase in harmony between nations, and all of this has been researched. So the tools of science, which are tremendous and powerful, have been used to demonstrate that actually, not only theoretically, but also practically, Veda is total knowledge, total science, and total technology. And we are so proud to be in this land of the Veda, where the Veda has appeared. I was saying in one of my lectures, Indians can be proud that they have cognized the Veda, and then I corrected myself and I said they can feel fortunate that Veda decided to come in this great land. And Veda is not religion. It could be applied into religion in the most beautiful way. That is great. But Veda is science, is total knowledge, and it brings fullness, health, wholeness, and prosperity to every individual, and peace in society, and heaven on earth to our world. And thank you for receiving us and being able for together to create Ram Raj, which means heaven on earth for everyone.